Hey Curiosphere, this is Suraj.
And I'm Pratham.
On this channel, we generally discuss our thoughts and have a deep talk on an intriguing topic. But since this is our second episode of Nomadic Conversations, we don't decide on a topic and one of us asks a surprise random question and we see where the conversation takes us. So Pratham, I want to start off with a scenario actually, and then I want to see what you have for it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a situation where, let's say, there's a thief and he goes to a random store, he robs the store, kills the clerk, and then he runs away. But now, as he's fleeing, he falls and let's say he hits his head on the pavement or something like that, and he suffers a brain injury, and that includes amnesia. Like he doesn't even remember his name or anything from the past. Now, then the man regains his ability to think and all that, but he still doesn't remember the crime that he committed. So now, do you think should the man be prosecuted for the crime he committed?
Wow, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, I have my own view about it, and I've researched a lot into what the law says about it. But yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I don't know. I think that kind of goes into what the point of punishment is, and whether we should be a society that punishes its criminals or rehabilitates them. But yeah, I'm torn on that a little bit. I think maybe not a strict punishment, but something less intense would be okay, because he did commit the crime after all. But I don't know, since he's
Yeah.
got amnesia now, it feels kind of evil to punish someone. Okay,
Yeah.
what do you think about it?
Even actually before getting to that, like I wanted to just flip that question and ask, let's say you just randomly you go to sleep today and tonight, and tomorrow morning you just randomly wake up in a hospital and someone says that, okay, you had suffered an amnesia and you don't remember what happened the last 2 days, and in those last 2 days you committed a crime and now people are going to prosecute you for that. Like, but you have no, like, not a single shred of memory of that.
Oh wow, okay.
How would you, as the actual person being prosecuted, would feel?
Yeah, not fair at all. I think I would probably protest a lot. But I don't know, do I believe in a fair and just society, like that I'm living in a society that is fair? In that case, I would probably believe and maybe
Mhm.
go through with a very reduced sentence or something like that. I mean, I don't think they would give me a choice in the matter, so. But yeah, it seems absolutely crazy though.
Yeah. When I was researching about this, and even actually my own view, I think it's linked back to our identity being tied, if it's being tied to memory. So we had a discussion on this on our identity episode, and we were discussing whether our identity is nothing but a collection of our memories. That was my view, at least, in that episode. Like, we are just a collection of our memories and experiences. So I think if you buy into the idea of identity being related to memory, then I'm guessing no, because the person that robbed and murdered the clerk is not the same person as the person being prosecuted.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah, so I think if you buy into that idea, so probably no. But but again, this can have like dire consequences. Like, if they pass the law that if someone doesn't remember or they suffer an amnesia and they forgets their crime, they shouldn't be prosecuted, then people can start saying that, oh shit, like even I forgot my crime. Why am I here? And
Yeah.
yeah,
How do you sort out the liars?
exactly. So yeah, it can have like bad repercussions if they actually pass a law like that.
I mean, it would probably be a special case instead of having a regular law for something like that, since it wouldn't be a very often, commonplace scenario. But yeah, I'm curious to know if this actually happened. Like, is this from a real case or something?
Not that I know of. Like, I couldn't find any cases where this happened. But it's an interesting thought experiment, I thought, just to think about it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm still thinking about it actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I have other views for it also. So let's say, even though he doesn't have the memory, but his thought process is still the same, right? Like his upbringing, the things that influenced him to be who he is currently, that's still the same. But again, however, that alone doesn't make him a culprit, because you know that, we all know that just because you have the tendency to create a crime, no one can arrest you. You actually have to create the crime. And if he, sorry, commit the crime. Did I just say create?
Yeah, but I have a point here. Like, even generally, even if he didn't lose his memory, to convict him of any crime, there would still be some evidence required, right? So even in this case, let's say he did forget his crime and now he suffers from amnesia. Without any proof or evidence, we wouldn't be able to pass a sentence on that person, anyways. So
Okay, so now I'm actually assuming there's actually a video recording of this guy committing a crime. I just wanted to discuss the implications from that person's point of view, where he doesn't remember anything. That even if you show him the video, he doesn't feel like he believes you. Like he won't believe you. Like he's feeling everyone else is like just concocting some
conspiring.
random story. Yeah, conspiring against him.
Hmm.
So I'm imagining that situation.
It's even still, it's pretty interesting because I was just thinking from a law perspective. How does the law make sure that it's right in such situations like that? And then I was just like, hold on, wait, is there some evidence or something? But what if it's his word against only one other person? And it's pretty interesting actually.
Yeah, true. I think from a law perspective, it comes down to the question of. So there was an interesting argument, like I was just reading through Reddit. So one said that it's justice versus punishment. So if you just wanted punishment, then yeah, like go ahead and punish him because he has done the crime, and you have the video showing that he has done the crime. But if you want justice, but I feel then it's a bit tricky. Like he probably isn't the same man, and yeah, just like I told you, if you imagine yourself waking up one day and you know that you lost 2 days of your life and you can't remember those 2 days and you've actually committed a crime, but it's not you, like you feel that people are conspiring against you and saying that you committed the crime. So I think it comes down to the question of prosecuting crime to deter others from doing so. Like I said, if we make a rule that if a person forgets a crime he committed, he won't be prosecuted. Others will use the same reason even though they committed the crime. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I got reminded of this quote that I read long back. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of society should aspire to help its wrongdoers, not just punish them. So, going off of that, I don't think there would be any sense of trying to radically punish that person, anyways, if we try to, implement a society where criminals some help is, some amount of restrictive freedom along with some help is provided instead of just critical or radical punishment. In that case, even situations like these could be accounted for. But I don't know how ideal that is and how realistic it can be.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, there's a very neat way to deal with this. Like I was just researching about this and I found out one. So according to the US law, there's a way described by US law which I feel is kind of better and helps deal with this situation. So they tell that you need to have two things for you to be found guilty. So one is actus rea and mens rea. So actus, like both are Latin terms. Actus rea means having done the act, and mens rea means having the mental state of knowing what you were doing. So now, since the person was knowing what he was doing while committing the crime, regardless of whether he remembers it now or what else, we can still charge him. Because at the time of him committing the crime, he knew what he was doing and he still went on with it.
But when you say his memory is lost completely, do we also mean all his habits and other things that he continues to do, or is it just a recollection as capability is lost?
We can probably take both of those cases, because if his habits is still there, then I feel again it's a strong reason to punish him, because he still is the same person. He has the same upbringing, and
Exactly.
but yeah. So, but what do you think about that law, that US law, where you have to do the act, and you have to have the mental state of knowing what you're doing when you did the act, and only then you can be charged guilty.
Pretty cool, actually. I think it sounds pretty stable and it would work. I mean, it's a solid principle. It sounds like it would be hard to determine on a case by case basis. The second thing, I think the first one is just basic proof and evidence,
Hmm.
determining whether the mental state is sufficiently, available for that person to be aware of what they're doing. That may be arguable in some cases, but it's definitely interesting. I think it's a nice way of looking at it. And I mean, no wonder that they're a pretty good country doing well in the world and leading the world.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I felt it was a really neat little law to deal with this. But with the advancement of technology, I feel that have you heard about deepfakes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so deepfake is basically you can take any video. If you have the right data set of another person, you can superpose the face of one person to the person being in the actual video.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it's like I can record myself saying some nonsense. I can put Donald Trump's face onto my face, so it feels like he's saying that.
But that might be real in a lot of cases too. might
Yeah.
might be hard to distinguish which is the actual stupid thing he said and which is the deepfake.
Yeah, true that. But I wanted to discuss the implications of that in this case. So let's say like deepfakes are already there, it's no joke. So let's say if someone can fake a video which shows a man committing a crime even though he didn't, but maybe we can simply say that he doesn't have the memory of it, but the crime was actually done. We can easily use deepfake for it. So let's say if someone is like I'm actually conspiring against you and I want you to be prosecuted, all I have to do is just create a deepfake of you, and even though you claim that you haven't done that or you don't have the memory of it, it doesn't matter. Like if we pass a law where people can't just claim that they've lost their memory and they shouldn't be prosecuted, it might be a difficult situation here, right?
Yeah, I mean, even irrespective of losing your memory, this can be done to a normal person also,
Yeah.
like who hasn't lost their memory. So it's kind of a tricky, sticky situation. I mean, I'm guessing there is some technology to differentiate between the deepfake and a real video also, right?
Yeah, people are working on that, but again, it's very hard.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not something, yeah. And they can't give a perfect answer like yes or no. It's just on probabilities. Yeah, it might be like 70% probability that it's a deep fake, something like that.
Okay, okay. Okay, anyways, coming back to our. Interesting again to think about that.
Yeah.
But that goes off into this whole thing about what qualifies as evidence and what doesn't, and what we can take for proof and what we can't.
Hmm. So, because we were discussing on this topic that other people might be conspiring against you and you can't trust them, that actually brings me to this topic of solipsism. Have you heard about it?
No.
Okay, so solipsism is just this idea that the only thing you can be sure of is the existence of your own mind. And outside of it, no matter what it is or who it is, like you can't really be sure of it. Or everyone else can be, for all you know, a philosophical zombie. So they just reacts to the input, but yeah, they're not like conscious thinking minds. So that's the
Yeah.
idea of solipsism. So I felt that if this situation actually happens to one of us, where we're just trying to be, we're just being prosecuted and you have no recollection of it, I think we will start believing in solipsism and you start distrusting others. But what do you think about the solipsism idea itself?
I've thought about it, but I didn't know there was a word for it. Because I would always think like what is real and what is not. Like how, like for example, some fact that I've read in a science book or something also. How do I really know it's true? Like, do I really know it? Have I really experienced it? Or can I really say that it's true? It's just that someone else has verified it, experienced it, and probably a few more other people have done it and it can be done. So we take it for a fact, and I believe in it too. But like, really, what is true and how much of it is real in my experience? If I think about it from that perspective, I feel like, okay, I really don't know anything except the little experience that I have from my life. So I've kind of thought about it, but I just didn't know there was like a concept like that, and there was like a word for it and thought experiments around it and stuff. But yeah, I mean, also a shout out in case you guys find the concept of philosophical zombie interesting, go check out our episode on P zombies. I think you'll find it fascinating. But
Yep.
yeah, what is your question again?
So yeah, my question, it was just like, what's your thought on solipsism? Like, do you think that it's actually the case where you can be sure of only about yourself? Can we ever really be sure about others?
Well, about others, I'm not really sure, but I think it's okay. Actually, I take a little bit of a view of the cosmological principle in this case, where, like, are you aware of it? I think you must know. So basically, it's the principle that no position in space enjoys a special position. Every direction is random,
Yeah.
and more or less things are spread out evenly if you look at it in a big enough scale. So there's no center of the universe. Every direction is a direction, and it goes on infinitely as far as it's understood now, at least. So there's no special position in the universe, or there's no central point. So I feel the same thing goes for people as well. Like, for example, if I started thinking that solipsism was true, and I can only be sure of myself, and others may be philosophical zombies, or things that they're saying and doing may not actually be true, I kind of would evoke that principle and think, why would I enjoy a special position in this human world? Like, what's special about me? Why would I be the center of this whole construction? So, if applying that logic, it wouldn't be like that, and probably I'm just deluding myself into thinking that. Do you get what I mean to say?
Yeah. That's a really nice way of coming out of solipsism.
I don't know, it just suddenly kind of felt like, because I think, if I don't know if you're aware of this, a lot of teenagers actually have these thoughts of people or everything conspiring against them, and sometimes they think that, what if everything's happening just to rattle me up, kind of, and they start having a lot of negative thoughts and start getting depressed and stuff. So I mean, it's kind of obvious that that's not the case, right? So thinking from that and having a little bit of a space perspective, that was the only thought that just suddenly came to my mind. Like, why would they enjoy a special position in the universe or in the human society? I don't know. It's random.
Nice. But wait, is the cosmological principle based on the physical reality? Or is it okay? So, but okay, if it's just describing the physical things, like nothing is the center of the universe, then I think it's doesn't it differ a bit for minds, like conscious minds?
Well,
Because I
yeah.
feel because of our conscious minds, we project the reality in a sense. Like only if my mind exists, the universe for me exists.
Yeah, I'm with you so far.
Yeah, so if we think in that direction, if my mind doesn't exist, so for me the universe doesn't exist and nothing with it. So I kind of feel that I am the creator of this universe in a sense. Like only because of me the universe exists and I can perceive it. So in a way, this also gives me leads me in the direction that solipsism might be true, because only because of my existence I can feel and perceive all the other things, and I can't really be sure of whether the other person feels the same too.
Yeah, I buy into that, but I don't know. The way I see it is, yeah, because you exist and you're able to perceive, that's why you have that perception. So the physical apparatus is there for you to sense the existence of other stuff. But the other stuff doesn't revolve around you. Like, it's not made for you. Or rather, it's like you're not enjoying a special position. Yes, you have the apparatus to sense everything, and it's just the framework. It's not the intention behind the code. Do you get what I mean?
But how would I know the actual intention?
I mean,
I mean,
that is
if it
another
is the actual
argument.
intention, yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, my argument is that if that is the actual intention, for me, I can definitely think that the entire like Earth, universe, whatever, all the characters in my life have been created just for me, and probably there would be no way of knowing otherwise. Actually, this brings into the idea of qualia also. You remember? I think it was in the philosophical zombie
Yeah,
episode where we discussed about qualia. Yeah, even if someone really feels the pain, there's no way of us
someone
understanding or
else.
seeing that pain. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can't really see the exact color that they are seeing. Like my red is not the same as your red.
yeah,
Yeah, since there is no way, at least right now, to see what red the other person is seeing or to feel what the other person is exactly feeling, I'll still feel that there's a disconnect. Like, say, I take a pen or a knife and stab a person and they screaming. Between those two incidents, I would still feel it's a disconnect and they're just philosophical zombie. I give an input, they provide an out. But at least right now, there's no technology to see what happens between those two.
yeah. I mean, right now we won't be able to determine that, and that's an established fact that it could be like you can't prove that it's not.
Hmm.
But the same logic about proof goes into that, right? Just because you can't prove that it's not true doesn't. But even otherwise, I just like since we can't prove or disprove it, I was just trying to think practically. Like that's why I was trying to think about that cosmological principle. But even otherwise, what would be the reason for something like that to exist? That's what I was trying to kind
Yeah.
of question over there.
Yes, yes. And I think this neatly brings in another aspect of another tool which philosophers use, which is a razor. So, I don't know if you've heard about philosophical razors. So, they shave off so many stuff that just creates problem. So, basically, I think Occam's razor. So, that's one of the philosophical tool which says that like if you're stating something based on some huge assumption, like then it probably is not true. So when I'm saying talking about solipsism, I'm making a huge assumption that every single conscious mind that I see, it's actually not conscious, it's a philosophical zombie. So that requires a huge assumption. At least for now it probably might not be true. That's what Occam razor offers us.
I actually have heard of that Occam's razor, and I saw it in that movie Contact. Actually, I think I told you about it. No, did you watch it?
Not yet.
Okay. So yeah, I think the way she puts it in the movie is that basically all things considered equal, the simplest explanation tends to be the right one.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's a nice movie, guys. Go check it out if you haven't. It's one of the cornerstones of I don't know, it's just a very classic sci-fi movie, and it's by Carl Sagan. So the story is by Carl Sagan. So go check it out if you haven't yet. It's a really amazing movie.
Wait, Carl Sagan wrote that?
Yeah, the book.
Damn. I thought it was by someone else.
No, it's fine. But yeah, I think again, it's kind of uh, if you apply that Occam's razor to it, it actually makes sense, right? It's kind of goes in hand with the cosmological principle and what I was trying to say that time. Basically, that there would be no reason for that, like making that big assumption that all other minds are just pretend robots or philosophical zombies. There would be no reason,
Hmm.
like there would be no intention behind that, and it's not the simplest explanation. The simplest explanation is the fact that everyone has a equal capacity and capability and consciously perceives the universe and everything around us and has their own perception of things, but
Yeah.
no one has been given the special position of being the conscious mind, and everybody else plays into that game of serving them or creating situations for them.
Hmm.
But that also reminds me of some of Asimov's writing. I don't know if you've read The Last Answer.
I have. I have
You
read
have?
that.
It's
Yes.
awesome, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to ruin it for anybody who's listening in, but basically, it's a conversation between two beings, and one being is trying to achieve an end goal through the other one. But yeah, it's a really short kind of written piece. I think it's just like some 6 or 7 pages if I'm not wrong. So guys, if you haven't read it, do check it out. It's really amazing and pretty crazy.
Yeah. Tell the name again.
The Last Answer.
By Isaac Asimov, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I faintly recall it. I think I should probably go and read it again.
Okay.
This also reminds me about what Carl Sagan stated once, which is extraordinary claims requires extraordinary evidence.
Amen.
Yeah, the more crazy your claim is, the crazy evidence that you require to prove it. Yeah. So, because we were discussing this Contact and Isaac Asimov, I just got reminded about this movie I watched recently called Prometheus. Have you watched it?
In parts.
In parts. Okay. So.
So no.
Okay. I had actually watched this long back, but I don't know. I rewatched it again, and then that movie has this concept of panspermia. Do you know about that? Okay, so panspermia is the idea that all the life that exists on Earth, it actually didn't originate from Earth. It was seeded by another planet or maybe another being in Earth.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So there are like huge evidences for this also, like not because of some being seeding it, but actually we could be the descendants of Mars. So there are huge, meteorites and all that we've collected that has come from Mars. During the initial stages of Earth being bombarded by all those asteroids. So we probably could be initial primitive cells on Mars, which was carried by asteroids and then crash landed onto Earth. So then being seeded on Earth.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we actually could be Martians, and we know that there was water previously on Mars. So there probably was life, like primitive life, like cells.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you mentioned panspermia, I was thinking something like, like the previous beings intentionally planned life on Earth and planted it and let it grow. Then I was just thinking, okay, then how would the first life originate?
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
That's a roller coaster ride. That probably doesn't have a proper answer, that meaningful answer we can come to. But yeah, it also could be that like there could be alien species with seeded life and just to watch us like how we're gonna live. Same theory for the computer simulation too. But yeah, coming back to this, what I wanted to discuss was in that movie, so there was this superior alien being and that had seeded life on Earth, and humans later, I don't know, 2050 or 2070, they discover some cave paintings where there's this star formations or the star clusters, and all these cave paintings from different parts of the Earth, they have this similar star formation. So they were thinking like, how can this be? And then they actually ventured to that particular star cluster, and then they grab a hold of dead alien's DNA, and they match it with us, and it's actually like a match. Then it's proved that we come from them.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy, it's wild. So, and it has a dark ending. So if people want to check it out, you can. But yeah, that got me thinking as to why would an alien being, if that's the case, why would they want to seed life onto different planets? I have a theory, and which came out of the research. But do you have any idea about that?
Well, one thing comes to mind is maybe they just want to see the different possibilities of how life would develop and stuff. Another could be that because living on any planet has its own dangers of life going extinct at some point. So maybe just to make sure that life doesn't cease to exist, plant it elsewhere and let it run wild wherever it can.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure. What do you have?
No, that's exactly spot on actually. So it could be that.
Okay.
Yeah. So it could be that they wanted to, see how life grows, and that's exactly what we do in labs also, right? So we have different species of, I don't know, bacteria, viruses, and even large animals. We put them in different environments and see how it grows, like how it reproduces, multiplies, how the environmental factors affect in it.
Yep, yep.
So yeah, there's a good reason
I can
for
see the darkness
yeah.
seeping in.
Yeah. So we could just be their petri dishes,
Lab.
petri dish experiments.
Yeah. Pretty crazy if you think about it.
Yeah, and that's actually the reason for the simulation hypothesis too. So I think you're aware of it. Simulation, where
Yeah.
we're just all a part of simulation, and the major backlash that we get is, I mean, that this hypothesis gets it. Why would anyone want to do that? And it's probably because they want to see how life evolves. Like if life is itself has a self-destructing feature, because we wage wars, we have nuclear bombs, we could kill each other. So probably to see how it evolves and how a perfect society should lead. So it's just good to just put it all in a simulation.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, there's arguments for both pro and con of that. I mean, for and against that. But that kind of reminded me of this one more thing. Have you heard of Conway's Game of Life? I'm not sure if we've
Yes.
spoken about that before.
I don't think we've spoken about it, but I have heard about it and I've played that also. Like you get this online tool.
It's pretty cool.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly. Yeah, so I'm just gonna spell it out for anyone who hasn't heard of it. So basically, it was this simple game that this mathematician John Conway created, and it's basically a 2D grid, and each square in the grid is a cell, and a cell can be alive or dead. So what happens is you basically select a few cells to be alive at the start of it, and upon each iteration the cells around, like every cell either comes alive or dead, and that happens based on certain rules. For example, if you're surrounded by 3 or more cells, alive cells, then you die from overcrowding, whereas if you're surrounded by 2 or 3 living cells, then you'll come to life. And for any other cell that's surrounded by dead cells, nothing happens to it. Something like that, some simple rules. And so basically each iteration you look at each cell and decide whether it comes alive in the next iteration or not, and it keeps going on that way. So each iteration produces a new pattern of live cells based on whatever you started off with, and different patterns keep producing different things, and some of them die out eventually after 4 or 5 iterations, or 10 or 12 iterations, or 20, 30 iterations. They may die out, but there are some patterns which continue living. Like for example, some of them just alternate between 2 designs back and forth and achieve some saturation. But there are some other designs that people have come up with that kind of produce live societies, and basically it's like that pattern grows, develops, moves on to a different part of the grid, produces more cells, grows more, develops. So in a way it's kind of reproducing. So the goal of a lot of research has been to find more patterns like that. And the whole idea is that with a 2D game with some simple rules, if we can find something that starts off randomly and is able to produce and reproduce and survive and expand, then the same thing can happen with the 3D universe also. With some simple physical and biological laws, the same thing can happen. Life can randomly sprout from one of the designs and evolve and expand and adapt to its surroundings and produce a living, thriving civilization. So if you haven't checked it out, just Google Conway's Game of Life and try to start off with some random patterns and see how they develop through the iterations. It's a pretty interesting concept, and anyone who I've had this conversation with always found this pretty fascinating, so I'm sure you'll find it interesting as well.
Yeah, that was pretty wild actually. The first time I heard about it and I actually tried it, so it was crazy. It just shows you how just very simple rules can create civilizations on Conway's Game of Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll leave a link of that down in the description. You can check it out.
Yep, that would be good.
Yes. Okay. So I think it was a really great discussion, especially on the notions of justice, the idea of panspermia, Conway's Game of Life. So I think we'll end it here. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments down below if you're on YouTube, and if you're listening to us on other platforms like Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, you can reach out to us on Instagram at Curiosphere. So thanks for listening and have a good one.